안녕하세요.
The imposing skyscraper of Seoul's largest conglomerate, JH Group, gleamed under the morning sun. Inside, the vast lobby buzzed with hurried employees, but one man stood out as he walked toward the elevator, tall, impeccably dressed, with an aura of authority. Jang Hyun-woo, the young billionaire CEO, was known for his relentless business acumen, unshakable discipline, and a cold demeanor that kept any emotion at bay. But today, fate had something unexpected in store for him. In contrast, Kim So-yoon, a new employee in the administrative department, hurried through the halls balancing a massive stack of documents. Her brown eyes nervously scanned the office. Being late on her first week was not an option. She turned the corner hastily and collided directly with someone. Papers flew like autumn leaves, scattering across the polished marble floor. Hyun-woo, caught off guard, took a step back, feeling coffee splatter on his pristine suit, and absolute silence fell over the lobby. Employees stopped what they were doing, horrified to see their powerful CEO standing in the middle of the mess caused by a stranger. "I'm so sorry." Yoon stammered, quickly kneeling down to gather the papers. Her hands trembled as she picked them up, completely convinced she would be fired on the spot. Hyun-woo let out an irritated sigh, shooting her a stern look. "Do you always have the habit of bumping into people like this?" So-yoon looked up, her face turning red. "No, it was an accident, I swear." There was something in her big, sincere eyes that made him hesitate. Instead of reprimanding her, he crouched down beside her, picking up one of the ink-stained papers. "An accident? That's what everyone says." Murmurs spread through the office. The CEO never lowered himself for anyone alone to help pick up papers. But there he was, doing exactly that. So-yoon bit her lip, unsure if she had just witnessed a miracle or if this was merely the calm before the storm. The moment stretched longer than necessary, neither of them moving, as a silent tension hung between them. Then, as if remembering where they were, Hyun-woo stood up, adjusting his suit. "What's your name?" "Kim So-yoon," she answered softly, gripping the stack of papers tightly. "Kim So-yoon," he repeated slowly, as if memorizing it. "I hope you're more careful next time." With that, he turned and left, leaving her standing in the middle of the lobby, her heart racing. She let out a sigh she hadn't realized she'd been holding. Little did she know, that wouldn't be their last encounter. And certainly, it wouldn't be the last time she would challenge the powerful CEO of JH Group. The following days were a whirlwind for Kim So-yoon. Since the incident in the lobby, every time she passed by the CEO, she could feel the weight of her colleagues' stares. The rumors had already spread. She spilled coffee on Hyun-woo and is still employed. He said her name. That never happens. The young woman tried to ignore the whispers, but one thing was undeniable. Jang Hyun-woo was now noticing her. On Monday morning, So-yoon arrived early to the office. As she organized the day's reports, a deep voice sounded behind her. Kim So-yoon. She turned so quickly that she almost knocked over the stack of papers. "Yes, sir?" Hyun-woo raised an eyebrow. "You work in administration, right? Then explain to me why the financial department's contracts were sent with such glaring errors." So-yoon blinked, confused. I don't know, sir. I only organized the documents before sending them to the directors." He stared at her for a moment, then slid a folder across the desk toward her. "Then figure out what happened and give me a report by the end of the day. If it's a mistake from your department, I want to know. If not, I want a name." She swallowed hard, taking the folder. "Yes, sir." As he walked away, So-yoon let out a heavy sigh. It was only her third day, and she was already in the middle of a corporate crisis. But if there was one thing she hated more than being in the spotlight, it was failing. With renewed determination, she began analyzing every detail of the contracts. Throughout the day, Hyun-woo passed by the office a few times, his gaze occasionally falling on her. There was something different about him. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was something he didn't understand himself. But the young woman, absorbed in her work, didn't notice. At 5:59 p.m., So-yoon marched to the executive floor. She took a deep breath before knocking on the CEO's door. "Come in." She entered and stopped in front of his desk. "Here's the report, sir." The error came from the financial department. It was a typo, but it could have caused a loss of millions. I've informed the responsible team, and the contracts have been corrected. Hyun-woo took the report and flipped through it. After a few seconds, he looked up. Good job. The unexpected praise caught her off guard. Thank you, sir. He watched her for a moment before speaking. Are you always this dedicated? So-yoon hesitated before responding. I believe that if I have a job to do, I should do it well. Hyun-woo nodded slightly. Then keep it up. She bowed and left, feeling her heart beat faster than usual. What was that? Praise? A moment of recognition? It didn't matter. What mattered was that, somehow, she had caught the CEO's attention again. And maybe, just maybe, this was only the beginning. Since the incident with the contracts, Kim So-yoon had noticed something different in her routine. Jang Hyun-woo, the untouchable CEO, seemed to cross her path more often than usual. Sometimes he passed by the administrative office for no apparent reason. Other times their eyes briefly met in meetings. So-yoon tried to ignore it, but it was impossible not to notice the change. That afternoon, while organizing some reports, her phone rang. Kim So-yoon, report to the CEO's office immediately. Her heart raced. Why? Had she made a mistake? With no choice, she grabbed her clipboard and made her way to the executive floor. After taking a deep breath, she knocked on the door. Come in. Upon entering, she saw Hyun-woo sitting at his desk, his expression as serious as ever. However, something in his eyes seemed different. He closed the folder he was reviewing and gestured to the chair in front of him. Sit. So-yoon obeyed, keeping her hands firmly in her lap. I need a temporary personal assistant for a business trip. My secretary had an unexpected issue, and you were recommended by administration. So-yoon's eyes widened. Me? Personal assistant? But sir, I'm just from the administrative department. You've proven to be efficient. Also, I don't trust just anyone with this position. She held her breath. Was this an opportunity or a test? Whatever the answer, refusing wasn't an option. When do we leave? She asked, determined. A shadow of a smile crossed Hyun-woo's lips. Tomorrow morning. Prepare yourself. So-yoon nodded, her mind already spinning with questions. What exactly awaited her on this trip? And more importantly, why did she feel that her life was about to change drastically? The next morning arrived faster than So-yoon had expected. At the airport, a private jet was waiting for them. The trip would be short, but the pressure of being beside Jang Hyun-woo at a corporate event weighed heavily on her shoulders. She tried to maintain her composure as she boarded, but her nervousness was evident. Hyun-woo, on the other hand, seemed completely relaxed. Sitting elegantly, he reviewed documents as if the world around him didn't exist. When So-yoon settled into the seat beside him, he spoke without taking his eyes off the paper. Are you nervous? She blinked, surprised by the direct question. I just don't want to make any mistakes, sir. He closed the folder and looked at her. If you were chosen, it's because you're competent. Don't doubt that. So-yoon felt an unexpected warmth in her chest. It was rare to hear words of encouragement from him. Still absorbing the moment, the plane took off toward their destination, Busan. At the conference, So-yoon was surprised by the role she had to play. She wasn't just a temporary administrative assistant. She had to stay close to him, take notes, and sometimes even speak on his behalf in minor situations. Hyun-woo's attentive gaze on her made her feel like every action was being tested. During one of the breaks, while reviewing some notes, a foreign executive approached. Miss Kim, right? She smiled politely. Yes, how can I help you? Before he could respond, Hyun-woo appeared next to her, his cold gaze fixed on the man. Is there a problem? The executive, visibly unsettled, just laughed. Nothing. I was just complimenting the efficiency of your assistant. Hyun-woo crossed his arms. Great, but if you need anything, speak to me directly. Once the man walked away, So-yoon looked at him, confused. Sir, was that really necessary? He shrugged. I don't like when outsiders try to overstep their bounds. You're here to work with me, not to be distracted. She bit her lip, unsure whether she should feel protected or just controlled. But one thing was certain. Jang Hyun-woo was starting to act differently around her, and that was as intriguing as it was dangerous. The heavy rain was pounding against the windows of the luxurious hotel, creating a steady rhythm that filled the silence in So-yoon's room. She had taken a warm shower and was now sitting in the armchair, watching the drops slide down the glass. Dinner with Hyun-woo would be in a few minutes, and her heart was racing. Something was different between them, and she couldn't tell whether that was good or bad. Wearing a simple yet elegant blue dress, she headed down to the restaurant. The sight of Hyun-woo waiting for her, impeccably dressed, made her stomach twist. He watched her approach, and a small smile appeared on his lips, which was rare. "You look beautiful," he said, standing up to pull out her chair. So-yoon felt her face heat up. "Thank you, sir." "Hyun-woo," he corrected, leaning in slightly. "At least here, no formalities." She swallowed. Calling him by his first name felt too intimate, but he insisted. "Okay, Hyun-woo." The dinner began peacefully, but soon the conversation took a more personal turn. For the first time, he spoke about his childhood, the weight of taking over the company at a young age, the constant pressures from his family. So-yoon listened attentively, seeing a side of him that few knew. The cold barrier of the unreachable CEO seemed to be slowly melting away. When dinner ended, the two of them walked to the hotel lobby. The rain was still heavy, and a thunderclap echoed in the distance. So-yoon hugged herself to keep warm, and without thinking, Hyun-woo took off his jacket and draped it over her shoulders. "You don't have to do that," she murmured, surprised by the gesture. "And you don't need to catch a cold," he replied simply. So-yoon's eyes met his, and the air between them seemed to grow heavier. For a moment, it felt as though something was about to happen, but then Hyun-woo's phone rang, breaking the tension. He answered, his serious expression returning to his face. "Yes, father. I understand. I'll be there as soon as possible." When he hung up, he sighed deeply and ran a hand through his hair. "We need to head back tomorrow, no matter what. There's a problem at the company." So-yoon nodded, but something in his voice indicated that it wasn't just a business problem. Something deeper was happening, and she feared it would affect the unexpected closeness that was beginning to form between them. The flight back to Seoul was silent. Hyun-woo was tense, his eyes fixed on the documents on his tablet, while So-yoon tried to ignore the growing anxiety she felt. The problem at the company seemed serious, but she suspected the real issue lay within his family. Something in the way he spoke on the phone, his closed expression, and the brief look of concern he cast at her before they boarded made it clear that the situation was delicate. As soon as they arrived at Jang Corporation's headquarters, Hyun-woo was immediately called into a meeting with the board. So-yoon remained at her desk, but she couldn't focus on anything. Her instincts told her that something big was about to happen. It didn't take long for her to find out. A few hours later, rumors started to spread throughout the company. Hyun-woo's father wanted him to marry the daughter of an important investor to secure an alliance between their companies. The arranged marriage would solve many of the financial problems that had arisen after an unexpected crisis. And Hyun-woo, he was being pressured to accept. When he finally left the meeting, his expression was heavy. He walked to his office without saying a word, but So-yoon knew he needed a moment. Still, she couldn't stop the ache that filled her chest. Could this be the end of whatever was happening between them? That night, Hyun-woo called her in for a talk. The office was empty, and he leaned against the desk, looking exhausted. "You've heard, haven't you?" His voice was low, laden with an emotional weight that was unlike him. So-yoon nodded slowly. "Do they really expect you to do this?" He sighed, running his hand through his hair. "They do, but I can't. I don't want to." She swallowed. "What if it's the only way to save the company?" Hyun-woo looked up at her, his expression intense. "Then let it sink. I can't live my life based only on business. I can't lose you." So, Yoon's heart raced. It was the first time he had expressed his feelings so directly. The air between them thickened, and for the first time, Hyun-woo seemed vulnerable. The next day, his decision shocked everyone. At the board meeting, he refused to accept the arranged marriage, making it clear he would find another way to solve the financial crisis. His father was furious. The investors threatened to withdraw, but Hyun-woo stood his ground. After weeks of negotiations and hard work, he managed to turn the company's situation around without needing a political marriage. It was a hard-fought victory, but the greatest reward was being able to live his love without strings attached. By the end of that year, Hyun-woo and So-yoon were married in an intimate ceremony, surrounded only by close friends and those who truly supported their union. Despite the challenges, they managed to build a family based on love, not business contracts. And as Hyun-woo held So-yoon's hand at the altar, he whispered something that made her heart race one last time on that special night. "It's been you from the beginning, and it always will be."